Golden State Warriors basketball has become Forrest Gump's box of chocolates. You truly never know what you're going to get. It's musical chairs. And on today's episode of who is going to come off the bench and have a huge performance, Trace Jackson Davis, Will Richard, and friends, let's get into it on today's program.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
What are they going to say now?
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the good word, everyone? Welcome to the Locked On Warriors. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Best way to support this show, check us out on YouTube and wherever you get your audio podcasts. Hit that subscribe, hit the like. We very much appreciate you for making the Locked On Podcast Network your team every day and the #1 sports podcast network out there. My name's Charlie Walter. We're going to get into the win over the Brookyln Nets, and we're going to ask a big question involving a potential trade scenario that sounds crazy, but it's just so crazy it may work. And who's saying no between the two teams and between the two podcast hosts? Matt Kolsky joins me tonight. Both of us formerly worked at 95.7 The Game. I was a TV guy for CBS News Bay Area, Kolsky, KNBR. Credentials are done. Warriors credentials tonight, 120-107. They win this game. Curry led the way with 27. Butler joined them with 21 points. Trace Jackson Davis had 11 and 6, 2 blocks, 10 points for Gary Payton, 10 points for DeAnthony Melton, but still can't find that three ball. Pat Spencer re-enters the rotation. Will Richard gives you 10 points off the bench. That's where I want to start, Kolsky. We'll get into just the win as a whole and what it means beating a Nets team that actually is playing pretty good basketball. But the musical chairs right out of the gate. After you don't see Spencer, you don't see Gee, you don't see Trace Jackson Davis against Toronto. You also don't see DeAnthony Melton because he was, sitting out the front end of a back-to-back. But how do you just, at this point in the season, entering 2026, entering January, the meat and potatoes of the schedule, how are we still tinkering with lineups this much, and how does it work from time to time? It's truly fascinating how dudes just step in like they didn't miss a beat. Trace Jackson Davis, prime example tonight.
Yeah, well, I don't want to make this negative after what was a good game, but
spin this into a positive somehow with what I teed you up with.
I can't, because the inconsistency is a result of inconsistency. That said, I think on a night like tonight, what you see is there's a bunch of capable dudes on this roster. And one way or another, Steve Kerr's got to stick with him. Obviously after tonight, you watch the way it went and you say, well, Will Richard's a much better player than Moses Moody. Fair enough. You're welcome to that opinion. And it may be true. I mean, it remains to be seen which one of those guys will be the more impactful NBA player down the road. But there are plenty of nights where Moses Moody's great. In fact, Moses Moody being in the starting lineup was a huge part of the Warriors' success down the stretch last year, right? I say this not to say Moody should have played more tonight or that he was good tonight, because he wasn't. What I'm saying is you can't play. We've been through this 1,000 times. You can't play 12 guys a night. And at this point, I think the Warriors would be better off. And I think you'd get better consistency out of whichever 9 or 10 you went with, if Steve Kerr would just make some decisions, for God's sakes. And you can always change those decisions a little, but boy, it'd be helpful to have a consistent rotation. And
make it for him, Joe. Consolidation trade. Make it for him, Mike.
I think that's what it has to be. I think that's what it has to be, because he can't help himself here. He cannot help himself. And look,
spin zone, he's going for all the data he can get and getting every single lineup combination together, and that's who they're going to include in trades.
Yeah, but it's not great data. When things are so confused, it's not great data. But here's the thing. There's enough guys. I think sometimes we forget about the depth, but let's say there's obviously Kuminga's getting traded, right? We're all going to agree on that. Let's say there's a deal that includes Moses Moody. Fine, no problem. We got Will Richard here, and Buddy Hield's going to be on the floor one way or another, it seems. Not to mention Pat Spencer, right? We got DeAnthony Melton. We got guys. Okay, let's say this trade, somebody wants Brandon Pajemski and, I don't know, Buddy Hield. Fair enough. They got guys that can step into a 9th or 10th man role. One of the problems with this team is that they have 6 or 7 excellent 8 to 10th men, and they're missing in the middle. The top is okay, right? Obviously, Steph's great. I think Jimmy's a number 2 you can compete with, but they don't have a third scorer on this team. They just don't. So who's that guy going to be? But okay, I did this to us, and I apologize, because tonight is worth talking about on its own merits. And someone just said this in the comments. Trayce Jackson-Davis in particular, they said he was sick. We know he didn't play last night. He comes out 5 for 6, 11 points, 6 rebounds. That's all good. Very impressive stuff. What I saw from him tonight, though, was a guy that could anchor the defense when Draymond Green was not on the floor. And I think, Al Horford, you're hoping will be that when he's available. But when he's not, feeling like you're able to put TJD out there in the center of your defense and be in a good position, I think it's going to be an important thing.
Huge, man. DeAnthony Melton, want to get into his specific performance. We want to get into one specific play. It's our play of the night. How about that possession with like 2 minutes left, Kolsky, where the Nets have climbed back within, I believe, 4. Will Richard dives on the floor. Ball kind of squirts away. Butler gets down on the floor. Will Richard's punching at it, and they don't call the jump ball. Lucky bounce goes to the Warriors, although it's not lucky. You create your own luck by being physical and by getting on the ground. That's what made it happen. And then Richard goes the other way, and instead of stat padding, he hands it off to, I don't know if it was Trace, whoever it was.
Trace,
that lays it up and in and gets credit for the bucket there. And then down the stretch, I feel like it was 4 turnovers in a row that the Warriors caused. They kind of did what the Raptors did to them a game ago and just out-physicaled a younger, not as experienced Brookyln Nets team who were led by Porter Jr., who we have to talk about in the next block, where he'll be a trade target. And then they were led by Damone. I can't even say his last name.
I was hearing Joman or
Joman. Yeah.
Joman, sort of, but it's spelled
from
Demon.
BYU. It's
Yeah,
7-3.
He's something. I think he was 1 for 8 from 3 last night or something like that. So a little bit of a feast or famine on the jumper. He's not there yet, but he's a big guy, and he can handle, he can pass. He shot the heck out of it tonight. So interesting young player. They have a lot of interesting young players on the Nets. They have no leadership whatsoever.
Too. That's a name that we got to bring up, Claxton, because he is one that has been tied to the Warriors if they need more size. But let's talk about some of the guard play when we return. Let's get into DeAnthony Melton. I know you have your thoughts on him. It's just a guy that makes things happen, really active hands, aggressive, the exact type of player that this team needed, but they need his shot to start falling. It has been, I don't want to say historically bad, but it's been
pretty
up there.
bad.
Within a historically bad shooting return to this lineup. Kolsky, you get the numbers ready. I'll take us to break.
Destroy Jimmy and Domino's. I know Jimmy drinks great wine.
All right, today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Gametime. Gametime is the best place to get your tickets, straight up. The closer you get to the action, the cheaper your tickets are going to get. And during basketball season, there's nothing like being in the building, the energy, the crowd, the first big run that gets everyone on their feet. So you got to get tickets, and you got to get them not refreshing screens and not figuring out what they're going to cost until the last second. Gametime, it's straightforward. You browse, you see what the tickets are. There are no hidden fees. You can also get a panoramic view of your seat. You get last-minute deals. Whether it's an NBA game or another live event, everything is right there in one place. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Gametime app today and get in on the action. All right, let's get back to the program.
And buddy, stop trying to dribble the ball.
All right, man, DeAnthony Melton, he's returned to the lineup, and you see exactly why the Warriors love this guy dating back to his days with Memphis, and you see why he worked out on that Memphis team that had, prime John Morant and Jaren Jackson and Steven Adams and Dylan Brooks and all these enforcers. He's got a little bit of enforcer to him. He can also handle the rock a little, and historically, he can put the ball in the basket. But, man, that jump shot has been broke. Does it worry you?
We're getting there. Not yet. I'm still going to say not yet. Especially the three-pointer. I mean, listen, DeAnthony Melton has had some good three-point shooting years. I got to pull up his career stats, but he's not a knockdown three guy. That's not so much his thing. Yeah, I mean, his last year with the Warriors in 6 games, 37, 36 the year before, 39 before that. He has 1 year over 40% from three. So he's not like, it's not like if Clay was shooting that percentage, right? The 2-point percentage and the amount of like floaters and layups he just hadn't had the legs for was a little concerning, but he's getting there. Tonight was much better in that respect. And he is a guy, unlike so many people on this roster, who when the three isn't falling, he will attack the basket. That's why I would say what concerns me more is not finishing closer. But honestly, just the ball handling, the maturity, the defense, you see all the things they really value about him. And I mean, look, someone in the chat said it right now. The worry is you need more points right now, and he's not providing them because he's not. I think it's fair to say he doesn't have his legs under him yet. He was out a whole year after a torn knee. He's played in 8-9 games since then. Like, I'm not panicking, but they do need him to come around sooner than later from a scoring perspective. That would show, get me to 10 points a game at least from DeAnthony Melton. I think that's what you really ultimately want to see from him. And even without that, his effect on this team is immeasurable. I mean, if they don't have him tonight, I'm not sure it doesn't go the same way as last night in terms of turnovers down the stretch, not being able to execute in key moments because you don't have enough ball handlers on the floor. Like, he's just a grown-up out there with the ball, and it helps a lot.
Yeah, man. So when we talked about the rotation to start the show and how the Warriors ran out, by the way, I think everyone scored that played for the Warriors tonight. No, Guy Santos, the lone Warrior that had a goose egg on the box score, but he did have 4 rebounds, had a couple of assists, and was a plus 10 if you want to factor that in. But everyone else, and they went 8 dudes off the bench. So 13 guys overall. 13 guys scored in today's game. You would have to think that in a perfect world, we get to postseason and the Warriors, let's say they somehow sneak into the 6 and they get a clean 7-game series. You want a solid 10. You don't need 13 guys, and that's the issue. We've been doing this for how long now? The nice thing to me is that some of the guys you want to keep, in my opinion, are cheap. Like Will Richard, give the guy 25 minutes a game. He had 23 tonight. He had 10 points. He had 3 assists. Just is kind of everywhere. Makes smart plays. Had a couple of steals. Only 1 turnover. A plus 22. Give him more minutes. I mean, he's already proved that he's a winner at the collegiate level. He's proved that he can play at this level. He's proved that he can score 30 points on a night where he gets hot. He can knock down shots. Again, 4 of 7 from the floor. And he's just good. So give him minutes. And I think we're reaching a point where contracts like Moody at $13 million and Buddy Hield at $9 million and obviously Kuminga at $25, I think those contracts aren't safe. I think that's kind of what we're looking at. If the Warriors are looking to free up some some cash, those are your casualties.
I think nobody is safe besides Stephen Curry. Full stop.
I think Will Richard's safe.
I guess. But you're telling me they wouldn't throw Will Richard in a deal if that's what got it done?
They would.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I don't think any team's coming to call about Will Richard. That's why he's safe.
Well, maybe not. But if you want to get a little young, if you're making a trade to get Kuminga and say, or maybe more appropriately, if you're a trade we might talk about later that involves names like Jimmy or Draymond, then maybe you want a young, cheap player in there to, spruce it up a little bit. I'm just saying, you're probably right. I doubt Will Richard will be in a trade, but I would not say anyone is truly safe other than Steph Curry. There's nothing on this team, with all due respect to Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green, nobody matters besides Steph. Any other piece is exchangeable for my money.
I just think those are the contracts right there. That
You're right.
13, that 9, and that 25.
Those are flexible.
You can create two separate deals out of it. And then I don't think, for the first time in a long time, maybe crazy to say, I don't think Draymond's 100% safe, especially if these rumors are true that you're targeting Anthony Davis. That would seem to me that Draymond would have to be in that deal, or else why would you make that deal?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of questions about a lot of things when it comes to the way certain NBA teams operate. But if we're trying to apply logic to it, that's all fair. I mean, the team that would trade Anthony Davis traded Luka Doncic last year. So, let's not put anything past them.
All is on the table when it comes to them.
Yeah, I just wouldn't. They obviously value some guys more than other guys. And obviously, contractually, some guys have more asset value than other guys. But I would say the only guy that's definitely getting traded is Jonathan Kuminga, and the only guy that's definitely not getting traded is Steph Curry. At the end of the day, those are the two things I feel very confident about, because this team isn't good enough to have any other, oh, no, we can't do that rules. They're just not. There's not enough here. They're not good enough to look at it that way.
Who do you think would be second most likely if you just had to take a gander?
God, that's so hard, because it depends so much on whether it's part of a Kuminga deal or a separate deal. But yeah, Moses or Pods might be the second most likely trade candidate. Although obviously I think Buddy Hield would be in that group as well. And then honestly, after that, I think we start talking about Jimmy and Draymond.
Let's get into that Jimmy deal. The Los Angeles Lakers, would they have any interest in Jimmy Butler? Could be a clean swap with one of their stars. We all know the name. We'll talk about that coming up. But first of all, we can't go 2 blocks without giving Steph Curry his flowers. He had 27 in the game today. He was awesome. Again, 8 of 15, 5 of 12, 5 assists. Had a couple of turnovers, but he was efficient out there. Had an and one that was actually called on the floor. And I guess it was a fair call, but ball don't lie, because he got it back top of the key and hit a 3 right after to get his 3-point play the new school way. That's how he said, forget the old fashioned. We're going to get it done this new school way. But he passed Kevin Garnett for 21st all time on the scoring list. And this is going to be kind of the regular moving forward. Every game, every other game, every third game, Steph Curry is going to be climbing up that ladder, passing names that live in basketball infamy. And tonight he passes anything's possible. Not Jason Tatum, KG.
Anything is possible. Yeah. Interestingly enough, well, no, I guess he's still in the part of the list where he's going to pass a lot of guys. He has a chance, a decent chance, if he's healthy, better than decent, to get into the top 15 by the end of the year, which would include passing names like Paul Pierce, Tim Duncan, Dominique Wilkins, Oscar Robertson, and even potentially Hakeem Olajuwon.
Not bad.
I've looked at this a lot lately because I've been looking at James Harden climbing the list as well, and KD, and there's a big gap above number 9 from Shaq up to where Kevin Durant is right now, and he's going to pass Wilt soon, so it's going to be a gap from Shaq to Wilt that after you get into the top 9, you kind of stall out for a while in terms of passing names, but this year, yeah. It's some heavy hitters that he's going to be moving past for sure.
All right. Speaking of a heavy hitter, the heaviest hitter of them all 4 years ago. Now, would he make sense to bring back to the Bay Area? Bill Simmons actually brought this up on his podcast. Could be a clean swap with a few ancillary pieces involved, but it could scratch both teams' backs. LeBron James for Jimmy Butler. Could this actually happen? Should we even be talking about it? That's straight ahead on Locked On Warriors.
Destroy Jimmy and Domino's. I know Jimmy drinks great wine.
All right, today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book, and right now it's a great time to get in on the action because you got all the sports going on. We got NFL playoffs getting ready to start up. You got the NBA season in full swing. We're not complaining about getting on FanDuel. And Fridays already feel different during basketball season. FanDuel's making them better every Friday before games tip off. FanDuel's giving fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. It's your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Open the FanDuel app and you'll get new boosts. You'll get bonuses. You'll get surprises. It's easy to check the weekly special before tip-off and move before the window closes, and the timing is perfect. Right before the games, right before the weekend starts. Add a little extra energy to your Friday night basketball without overthinking it. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA.
Forget that. We champs. Why are you starting with that question? We got 4 championships.
Couple names I want to get into, Kolsky, before we move on to the big talking point of the C block, and that is LeBron James, who has been tied to the Warriors the past couple of years many times, and now it could actually happen. Would it make sense at this point in time? But before that, I got to ask you about 2 Nets players that we saw tonight. One being Michael Porter Jr., and this is my take on the matter. I don't think the Nets are going to trade him. I think he's kind of figured out his game there and is playing like a legit all-star. I don't see why they would dish him off. If so, would you want to trade for him? And then Nick Claxton, if he was available, very athletic center with nice hands, can't hit a free throw to save his life, but does have some good attributes that he brings to the fold. Either of those 2 worth monitoring or stay away.
I'm going to go backwards on those. Claxton is a little interesting because he's obviously, he'd be the most active interior center you have. He's incredibly long. He'd be the tallest guy on the roster. But he doesn't have any skills that Trace Jackson Davis doesn't have. Like, don't misunderstand me. Claxton's the better player. He's taller. He's got more experience. But what do the Warriors want him for? They want him for basically what Trace Jackson Davis did tonight. So, yeah, I mean, if you could upgrade Trace Jackson Davis to Nick Claxton without giving much up in the process, you'd obviously do it. But I still think the Warriors, like, if Al Horford playing well and Nick Claxton are both available down the stretch of a playoff game, I think Al Horford's playing. So I don't think I would want to use the Kuminga asset, which is probably still their best asset, to acquire Nick Claxton. Even though I like the guy, I think he's a good player. He does things they could use. I'm just not sure he's a big enough upgrade to really move the needle for where this team is going to end up. Michael Porter Jr. certainly has the talent to affect things. He would be the second best scorer on this team, probably, with all due respect to Jimmy at this stage of his career.
MPJ can light it up, man.
He also never met a shot he doesn't like. I mean, if Steve Kerr gets mad at people looking off Steph Curry to do their own thing, he's not going to like Michael Porter Jr. And he plays no defense, which has not historically gone. And, much like other players that Steve Kerr has not enjoyed, he's kind of an idiot defensively. So I just don't think it's a great fit, unfortunately. But if you could, what he does do is fill up the basket and rebound. And those are two things that the Warriors could really use from a big, tall, long-armed wing. I mean, if you could somehow convince that guy to lock in defensively, he'd be great. But I don't know if that's in the cards.
Money is pretty similar on Jimmy Butler and LeBron James. Let's just, for the sake of podcast, talk show radio here, who is more unlikely to say yes to that deal from the front office's sides, Lakers or Warriors? If it was, let's say there was like a Trace Jackson Davis involved, but it's for the most part, a clean swap, LeBron, Butler. Who's more mad about that deal?
I don't know if I would give up Trace in that deal.
Okay, not Trace. You know what I'm saying.
Who's more mad?
Who's more likely to say no?
I would think right now the Lakers would be more likely to say no for the simple fact that they are a better team right now, aren't they? I mean, I know they haven't played great lately. JJ just lost his mind about defense, but the Lakers right now are the 5th seed, 20-10, and the Warriors.
I disagree.
I
think it'd be the Warriors. I think the Lakers would make that move in a heartbeat. I think the Warriors would be the team that would look at that and say, I don't know.
Why?
I mean, LeBron's old, man.
So's Jimmy.
LeBron's older. Much older.
Yeah, but I mean,
been hurt for part of the year, the net rating when he's on the floor with his team. And that's the thing is he gets a new change of scenery, plays with Steph, facilitates. Because that's the thing. Think about the Lakers makeup right now. You got a bunch of dudes that play with the ball in their hands. It's what they do. You look at the Warriors and what they do in terms of Steph moving off the ball with LeBron on the floor. It's so crazy. It just may work. But
with all due respect to everybody, like the washed LeBron we're talking about is a better. I mean, he's better than Jimmy right now.
He still has some crazy nights, man.
Yeah, he's certainly capable of more than Jimmy on one night. And I love Jimmy Butler. I don't want the Warriors to trade Jimmy Butler, but I think you'd have to think about this because, again, the Warriors aren't good right now. They're not a good team. So we can argue about the reasons for that. I certainly have my opinions on it. But they're 17-16, and they have, I think I saw it was 8 games, no more. Some ridiculous 11 of the 16 games or something like that. They led in the fourth quarter in their losses. And I think it was 4 of them. They had double-digit fourth quarter leads. Like, I think you'd have to think about it. And I would assume that LeBron, coming off of like a old man getting back into shape injury, will continue to improve as the year goes on. It's not like I love Jimmy. It's not like he tears it up every night. It's not like there haven't been off nights for him this season. LeBron is scoring 20 points a night, almost 7 assists, 5 rebounds, shooting 50% from the field. His 3-point shot has been bad. I'll give you that. But other than that, it's like he's still basically LeBron, just a little less of him and a little less often, which is the same thing you could say about Jimmy or Steph or even Draymond.
And he'd fit better with Steph, or at least in his mind, you would think that he would think he fits better with Steph.
Well, that's the interesting part of this, right? Because obviously what LeBron wants is always a factor.
Like, is there a scenario where this could help out both teams? The rare trade where it's like,
I think there is. I think there's also a chance that it hurts both teams. Like this is sort of a 50-50 thing to me. What the reason you would make that trade, to be clear, is because it's not working and it would be different. I don't think one or the other is necessarily better. They do different things. A bunch of people have mentioned, obviously, I think people are wrong that LeBron can't defend when he wants to, but he's not defending all that often at this age. Jimmy is a much more consistent defender. LeBron is a much more consistent and frankly dangerous offensive player in every single way. And that is not to disrespect Jimmy Butler. That's just who LeBron is. So it would be different. But he would change things. It would be interesting. And I can't say it would be a bad idea.
You think there's any chance that it would actually come to fruition, or is this
very,
just
very, very little
talk?
chance? Very
what I'm
little chance. I think it's almost
thinking
impossible. That's the sort of thing it's hard to even talk about. As dumb as the Luka trade was, and as much as it was still the wrong decision not to run it around the league, I understand why they didn't, because it's hard to talk about these things seriously without making a mess. And honestly, the one thing you can say about Jimmy Butler in his Warriors career so far is that he has consistently been an unbelievably good citizen. And the worst case scenario is you start taking a sincere look at this. You have the conversations, decide not to do it, and now things are even worse here because Jimmy's not happy anymore. Jimmy was on the floor laughing tonight. So I'm not unhappy with Jimmy Butler. And I don't think that deal is likely to happen. But I do think it's intriguing, and I'm not sure it would be a terrible idea.
Is there a situation, and I just bring up a name let's go to the Thunder with AJ Mitchell, one of those guys that's, third, fourth off the bench, whatever. Probably not him just because the Thunder are rolling and why would they? But
right.
But is there a team like that basically where there's someone maybe buried on their bench and we'll stockpile assets, we'll take a first round pick, whatever. And you can bring that guy in and make him more of a focal point of the offense. He may not be a good example because he's got to be sixth man of the year, probably one of the most improved players.
Right. But I see what
you
you mean. But I don't think that works for the Warriors really, because that team you're describing, whether it's the Thunder or someone else, probably doesn't want Jonathan Kuminga to also sit on their bench. And Jonathan Kuminga certainly doesn't want to do that. So
is there one of those guys on a bad team that's maybe being underutilized that we're not bringing up enough?
I think we're bringing most of them up, honestly, because the most obvious trade partners who've been mentioned over and over again are New Orleans, Sacramento, and Chicago. None of those teams are really very good. All of them could stand to take a flyer on a young player with potential like Kuminga, and all of them have, kind of a bunch of intriguing options. Nobody's a perfect fit, but Chuck sees everything. But yeah, I don't know. The one I did text you a slightly off the beaten path one, and I don't know.
Who is that?
Jeremy Grant of the Portland Trailblazers.
I'm good.
Could I just suggest to you before you write it off entirely?
Can we go back in Uncle Rico's time machine and trade for Nickeil Alexander-Walker? That would have been nice, man.
Yeah, another 30-point game tonight, I think, even though
dude, he's awesome. Where were the Warriors in making some things happen in the offseason, man?
That is a very fair question.
Waiting on Jonathan Kuminga for this. For this.
Well, and the thing is, that is the sort of organizational failure we have talked about, right? Is that at the end of the day, what do we know? Maybe Steve Kerr's right that Kuminga shouldn't be playing. Or maybe Jonathan Kuminga's right that he should be playing 35 minutes a night and taking 25 shots somewhere, right? We don't know the answer to that question because neither of them has really given us the opportunity to see it. However, you can't run an effective organization if you commit that sort of, it's not even the specific money, it's the like slot on the roster. It's a relatively high value slot on the roster. And you can't commit that kind of money to a guy that your coach doesn't want to play.
Dude, especially when your fourth highest paid player and your fourth most important roster spot won't even look at the basket 3 feet away. Like, he's just a complete offensive liability. And then your
bottom line is
your third best player, who's supposed to be your scorer, is on the bench not playing
he's
at all.
unselfish.
I mean, your third and fourth guys. I mean, you're screwed.
Right. The problem, again, whatever you think about Kuminga, the problem is that in the offseason or last year or at some point in the past, the Warriors organization couldn't get it together to get on the same page to where, all right, if you're not going to play the guy, then I guess we'll get what we can get for him and we'll figure the rest of it out down the line. And honestly, organizational continuity, being on the same page with all that stuff was one of the great strengths of the Warriors during all those championships. And it's hard to say exactly who's to blame here. And I'm willing to give everyone a bit of a pass to a certain point. But this past offseason to me is where going through all that nonsense and refusing to move him and all of this, if you didn't have a absolute guarantee from Steve Kerr that the guy was going to get consistent time to try to figure it out in a way that was meaningful, well, I don't know if the failure's on Kerr or on whoever asked him if the guy would play or but you're never going to be effective if the organization is shooting itself in the foot like that.
What can you do, man?
Yeah, it's a bummer.
Uncle Rico's time machine. That's the only thing you can do. Go back. And someone said that Nickeil Alexander-Walker wouldn't have developed under Steve Kerr. They said that in the chat. Alexander Walker, I mean, the offensive game is really picked up, but that's a guy that had perimeter defending skills for a minute now. And there were some players in the offseason I feel like the Warriors could have gone out and got, and now it seems like slim pickings. We keep talking January 15th, and we brought up 3 fair names on the program today that could actually happen. And there's a reason to turn your nose up at every single one of them. I think Michael Porter Jr. is probably your best offensive threat that's reasonable that you could bring in. How does he hold up defensively? What is it in terms of a system fit? And then long-term, how much you paying Michael Porter Jr. to be the second dog and kind of the next pillar when Steph Curry leaves, because he'd be the best player, post Curry as of right now. You don't have anyone else. And, aside from that.
Hold on, though. Wait a second, though. Wait a second. Do you want to be a team where Michael Porter Jr. is your best player?
No, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't make a ton of sense. And then LeBron for obvious reasons. And then,
well, that's why LeBron makes more sense to me, because at least timeline wise, you're not marrying someone who is going to make you feel bad in a few years.
No, it's almost like hey, we're screwed either way, so let's try something new and let's see if LeBron and Curry can catch fire. But
that's why LeBron interests me. I don't know if it would work, but at least it would be different. And it's 2 of the top 10 players of all time for my money playing together. I got no problems with that.
Yeah, seeing them on a basketball card together in a Warriors uniform would be cool, but I think we've thrown enough shade at LeBron over the years to where we've gone long enough. He's 41. Probably just keep him out of the Bay Area and let's go after Sabonis. Is that a name that's going to be brought up there? Just so many different names that we can bring up on this program, and we'll continue to bring them up. But the big thing tonight is that the Warriors get the 120-107 win. They pull back in front of 500. They're a game up 17-16. They got the Charlotte Hornets on New Year's Eve.
Yeah,
that's
midday, middle of the day. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's 10 a.m. Pacific time. You can catch that game. Wake up, grab yourself some coffee, and fire up Con Knipple, who will remind you a lot of Klay Thompson if you have not seen him play yet. Brandon Miller went for 30 tonight. LaMelo Ball is a fun player to watch. Kalkbrenner is a good rookie for them. Sion James is tough. They got some guys on Charlotte. And despite their record, much like Brooklyn, they'll be somewhat of a tough task on the road. We'll see if the Dubs are ready to go for that 10 a.m. Pacific time tip-off. Kolsky, good stuff, my friend. Locked On Warriors. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hit that like on the way out.
You got to beat Charlotte or Dad's going to be talking trash at the New Year's party. You can't have it.